There are many reasons why you might decide to go down a more sustainable route, adopt more renewable technologies into your life. But for me, near the top of the list is getting gas out of my house. I bought this property in 2009, so I've been here about 15 years. And when I moved in, it was fairly typical. It had gas-fired central heating, as most properties actually in the UK do. Now you might think, because I come over as Mr. Renewables on this channel, you might think I was instantly making plans to do something about that. But actually what I did when I moved in here was to completely redecorate the place and actually put in fossil fuel burning accessories. For example, here in the lounge, filled in the fireplace, put in a gas fire of all things, and in the kitchen put a kitchen extension on the back, and in the larger kitchen diner had space for a range and got one with a gas hob. So you might think, well, what on earth was I doing that for when I come across saying how much I want things to change? Well, that was 15 years ago, and back then that's kind of what you did. And although it was on my radar, my wife and I have been avid recyclists since before it was trendy and before they came and did it on your doorstep, I always kind of knew that this was something I was interested in. I'd looked at a Nissan Leaf back in 2011, didn't take it out for a test drive, but I'd looked round it and thought, oh, I really like the idea of an electric car. But things weren't quite there. The pieces of the jigsaw were starting to be put into place, but it wasn't quite the right time, I guess, for me. So something clearly has changed in that 15 years to really push me over the edge. It's difficult to say exactly why I've kind of moved towards the more renewable side of things, but I guess you only have to look out the window to see what's happened to the weather in recent years. Now, shortly after I got all that work done that I was talking about in the house with the gas fire and the gas hob and various bits and bobs, I actually got solar panels put on the roof. But I think if I'm being honest, that was as much an investment as it was doing it for the environmental reasons. And the solar panels have been brilliant. I mean, now, 15 years later, solar panels are even better than they were, way better than they were then, and they have plummeted in price as well. So solar panels are an absolute no-brainer if you're thinking about a new renewable technology to opt for. But it took me 10 years from getting the solar panels to when I actually started doing other things. And it's because really the technology had caught up. So in 2022, I did two major things. First of all, I got an air source heat pump. That's now, I've been through 2 winters, heading now into my 3rd winter with that doing my hot water and my heating. The other thing I did was to move from a petrol car straight to an electric car. I contemplated, I toyed with the idea of getting a hybrid, realised the technology is really it's no good, in my opinion. It's the worst of both worlds. That's what I think. You may think differently, but I've skipped hybrid and went straight to electric. Again, no regrets there. It's been absolutely brilliant. So at the beginning of 2023, I had gone a long way to getting rid of fossil fuels in my home and in my transport. But I still had the gas fire in the lounge and I still had a gas hob in the kitchen. So I needed to do something about both of those. It might not surprise you to learn that 2023 was a bit of a write-off after buying a heat pump and an EV, so nothing happened during that year. But at the beginning of 2024, finances had recovered just enough to do another long-standing plan for the house, and that was to completely revamp the lounge. So it changed from being what it is to what it is now, and you can see it is completely different, even involved moving a door. But yeah, so it's looking great. I'm really happy with it. And of course, as far as this video is concerned, the major change was to get rid of my gas fire. And I replaced it with what looks like a log burner. Log burners, they're really bad for you. So it won't surprise you to learn that this is not really a log burner. It's a fake log burner and it's really electric. But it looks really convincing. I mean, look at this. Look at these flames. They are really convincing. I'm very happy with it. So that was all completed really right near the beginning of 2024. So for the majority of that year, my only gas, in fact my only fossil fuel requirement in the house and in the car was my gas hob in the kitchen. And that is it. But really there was no chance of making that final step because new range, let's face it, quite expensive. So I've spent the rest of 2024 kind of putting my money together. But get towards the end of 2024, get to November, And I happily had enough money to think, yeah, okay, I think I can now do it. I can make that final step. So in November, put in the order for a new range to go in the kitchen. Really exciting. Now, the big thing here is that, of course, I want to change away from a gas hob to, I'm going to go induction. And if you've got an electric oven and an induction hob, then the requirement for that electricity-wise is greater than it would be just for a normal electric or a dual fuel. So instead of a 32 amp feed, you need to have a 45 amp feed. And for that, it's not just a case of changing a fuse. You have to run a new electricity, a new supply from the consumer unit right through to your isolation switch by the cooker. And in this house, because of just its weirdness, that's actually harder than it seems. Now, I can't believe that I actually had the foresight that when the place was being ripped apart in January to redo the lounge, and I was doing some work out in the kitchen and new doors and all sorts, I had the foresight, I don't know how I did this, to get the spark to put the first fix in for a 45 amp supply for the cooker. So that was done then, and it's been in situ for months. So that was all done and ready for the next part of the process, which was to replace the range.
If you're enjoying this content, make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell, and you'll know when the next video goes live. And if you're in the UK and you want to get £50 off your energy bill, you can sign up for Octopus Energy using the referral link on screen now. I'll get £50 too.
Now this is my current range. It's a dual fuel stoves range, and the original plan was to get the induction version of this. But when I went to put my order in, I discovered that it had been discontinued, which was a bit annoying. And when I dug a bit deeper, it turned out that stoves have decided to move their manufacturing from the UK over to China. Now, with my environmental head on, I'm thinking to move something like this that weighs, what, 100, 130 kilos halfway across the world is not going to be the best thing to do, is it, really, environmentally speaking? It's far better to just drive it a little way down the M1, let's be honest. And also, let's not forget the impact it's going to have possibly on UK manufacturing and jobs and taking money out of the economy and all the rest of it. So, my wife and I decided that much as we like the stoves, we're not going to get another one. And the obvious alternative, if I'm looking for something that's made here in the UK, is a Rangemaster. So, we're getting one of those. So it's a few weeks later and the spark has been and completed the 45 amp upgrade. So that's all good. Now you might have noticed, if you were particularly eagle-eyed, that the isolator switch that's for my current range is positioned directly above it. And that's not a very good thing. There's a very good reason for that, and that is when we had this extension built on the back of the house to make a bigger kitchen, we had that rare opportunity to decide exactly where all of the power sockets, where the sink was going to go, where the range would go. We could decide all of that, and it's not often you get to do that. Normally you go into a house, all those decisions have been made for you originally by whoever built it. So we had the chance to decide where we're going to put everything. And the range that we decided to get was a 900mm range. So the isolator switch was put in at the first fix of it where the appropriate position would be for a 900mm range. Now when it turned out a little bit later in the process, the range that we picked was no longer available. We couldn't find any other ranges of that size that we liked, and we suddenly realised, hang on a minute, this is a reasonable sized kitchen. We could actually have a wider range. So we decided instead to get an 1100 wide range, but that meant that the isolator switch ended up going right above the cooker, which you really shouldn't do. Anyway, fast forward now, 12 years, the same spark who did that original fix of the electrics in this extension came back, and I got him to do the 45 amp upgrade, and he said, right, we can fix this problem finally after all these years. So he's decommissioned the old isolator switch, that is now dead, and he's put the new one for the 45 amp feed in the cupboard down here, and that then feeds through to the range from behind. So that means that problem is now solved, which is brilliant. So that is now done. The next thing then is to move forward in the process to the next part and get the gas capped off. It's a couple of weeks later now, and there have been 3 seismic days in this project. For the record, the 8th, 9th and 10th of December 2024. Now on that first day, the 8th, my range was used, the gas hob, for the very last time. The last bit of fossil fuels that will be actively used in this household. The following day, the gas engineer came out and capped the gas off. Now, rather than doing it by the range, as was the original plan, he actually capped it off by the meter because there's no more gas appliances in the house, so it seemed logical to do it there. And then the following day, on the 10th of December, my new range was delivered. And here it is. So this is a Rangemaster Nexus 110. And of course, crucially, it has an induction hob. You might be able to hear it humming, you might not, but so I'm just running the ovens for about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour or so, just to kind of get rid of the kind of factory smells. But we've given the hobs, the induction hob, a quick try out while the installers were here to make sure everything worked. So the next part of the process was to get the gas meter removed, because once that's done, no standing charge. So I contacted my energy supplier, who's Octopus Energy, and they replied, this is by email, and they replied to say that I needed to contact the DNO, which is the supplier who looks after your gas supply. And I thought, well, that's a bit strange, because according to the Octopus website, that they will come in, remove the meter and do it for free, because many suppliers will charge you £80, £100 or so to come and do that job. So I thought, that's a bit weird. Had a look at SGN, who are the local suppliers here, and they will charge nearly £1,200 to come over and cap your gas supply. So I thought, this is very strange. So I emailed back again and I said, no, look, here's the link to the article on your website. You will come and do this for nothing. I'm really not sure this is right. And they replied and said, no, you have to speak to the DNO. So I phoned up then and I said, look, I'm going to email you the link to the website again. Here is the information. You will come and cap the meter and take it away, and I don't have to pay anything, and then I don't have to pay any standing charge. That's what it says on your website. So I emailed him the link, and he said, I'm going to go and speak to someone. He went off for a few minutes, and then he came back and he said, oh yes, you're right. Now it must have only just changed. At which point I pointed out to him that the article had been on the Octopus website for 2 years. So it's a bit weird, but all credit to Octopus. Once we got over this little weirdness, everything was really quick and slick and went really well, because I had they emailed me a form that I had to fill in, which simply was confirming that I don't need gas, that I have another form of heating, such as a heat pump, for example, and I was confirming, yes, I don't need it, tick, tick, tick. Sent that back, and then I had an email to say, I had a phone call next to say, we want to come and take your meter out, but unfortunately I was on another call at the time, and when you ring back you just get customer services. So what I had to do then was to wait for them to call me. Anyway, they did. They called me and said, would you like an appointment? We can come tomorrow. I said, oh, that's good, thank you very much. Put the phone down. And then about half an hour later, I had another call, this time from the engineer, to say, actually, I can come now if you want, because I'm in your area. So I was out at the time, and I said, well, give me half an hour and I'll see you at home. So half an hour later, he literally just pulled up. I pulled on the drive. He came in. They'd taken the meter out, and it literally took him about 10 minutes. And now I have literally no gas supply at all. Well, there is gas in the pipe, but it's capped, it's unused. I have no meter. As you can see, it is now gone, and that means that I will pay no standing charge. So miraculously, although I didn't think it was quite going to happen before the end of 2024, it has. I have managed to replace all my gas appliances. I have managed to get the gas meter removed, and the standing charge will stop before the end of 2024, which is a real bonus. I'd set myself that goal, didn't think I'd quite manage it, but I have achieved that. So, if you want to know a little bit more about any of this process, you have any comments to make, please post them below, but I'll be only too pleased to answer them. If you've enjoyed this video, hit like, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of this rambly content. Thanks so much for watching, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you for another video really soon.